My sister chose our grandpa over our dad to walk her down the aisle at her wedding after years of neglect from both our parents. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. I am 35 years old with two siblings. My sister is 29 and my brother is 23. Our parents are extremely religious and conservative. Growing up, they cared very much about their image in society. They always wanted a son and were extremely disappointed when my sister and I were born. Being their first child, when they found out that I was a girl before I was born, they even contemplated not having me. But because they are religious, they decided to go through with the pregnancy. My grandmother told me that when I was just 2 years old, my mother sent me away to stay with her because she was depressed having me around. Growing up with my grandparents was amazing. My grandpa patiently taught me how to ride a bike. I still remember the thrill of pedaling on my own for the first time. Those bike riding days created a strong bond between us that lasted a long time. My grandma taught me all about gardening. I learned how to take care of plants, see flowers bloom, and enjoy having a little piece of nature. The skills she shared during those gardening days still help me today. Throughout all this, my parents never once came to visit me until I turned 7 years old, and people started questioning them about why I wasn't staying with them. They dragged me back from my grandparents to stay with them, despite my protests. I would have loved to continue staying with my grandparents, as they brought stability and warmth into my life. After 3 years, my parents were over the moon to learn they were expecting another child. However, when they found out it was going to be another girl, they were disappointed again. Surprisingly, though, they were a bit more relaxed about it compared to when I was on the way. Thankfully, my sister didn't have to go through what I did, and she stayed with our parents growing up. The differences in the way my parents treated me and my sister were quite noticeable. For instance, I was expected to help my mother out with a lot of household chores and responsibilities. It felt like a never-ending list of tasks that I had to complete to meet their expectations. However, when it came to my sister, the rules seemed to be a bit more relaxed. She didn't have the same level of pressure, and my parents were more lenient with her chores. It was like they had learned from their earlier parenting experiences and decided to take a different approach with her. Another example was the way they handled our education. When I was in school, there was immense pressure on me to excel in every subject. My parents had high expectations, and any deviation from top grades was met with disappointment. They enrolled me in various extracurricular activities, pushing me to be the best in everything. On the contrary, when my sister started school, the atmosphere was significantly more relaxed. While they still cared about her education, the level of intensity was not the same. They allowed her to explore her interests at her own pace and didn't enforce the same strict rules that I had experienced. The most striking difference, however, was in the way they celebrated achievements. When I achieved something notable, it was often met with a nod of approval or a brief acknowledgement. In contrast, when my sister accomplished something, the whole family celebrated as if it were a major milestone. These differences created a sense of confusion within me. I couldn't comprehend why the same parents could have such contrasting approaches to raising their children. It wasn't easy growing up in an environment where I felt constantly scrutinized, while witnessing my sister enjoying a more carefree upbringing. However, I made a conscious effort not to harbor any resentment towards her, as I recognized that my sister wasn't responsible for the parenting decisions made by our parents. Despite these challenges, I remained committed to supporting my sister and being a positive influence in her life. In fact, we managed to maintain a good relationship and have always remained close. 6 years later, everything changed when my brother was born. My parents had a massive feast to celebrate the fact that they finally had a son. Since the day he was born, it was clear that he got special treatment. He had fancy clothes, expensive toys, and a super cool room that was way fancier than what my sister and I had. Our parents really went all out for him, buying the best baby gear like top-notch strollers and an expensive crib. It wasn't just about stuff. Our little brother got way more attention too. Our parents took tons of pictures and videos of him hitting all his baby milestones. But when it came to me and my sister, there was never this much fuss. Even in everyday things, our parents were more involved with him. They never missed a doctor's appointment or a play date, always there for him. For me and my sister, our grandparents played a bigger role in our lives after my brother was born. This unequal treatment didn't just stop with babyhood. It continued as my brother grew up, shaping the way our family worked and causing some challenges along the way. My brother was exempt from many household chores that my sister and I were expected to handle. Our parents often made allowances for him, excusing him from responsibilities that were an integral part of our daily routine. Birthdays and special occasions became grand celebrations for him, complete with elaborate parties and expensive presents. As you can imagine, this made me and my sister feel left out all the time. To be fair, I had gotten used to their treatment pretty much by this time, but this was the first time that my sister was experiencing what I had been through as a child. We started to spend a lot of our time and vacations at our grandparents' place. As we spent countless afternoons playing in their backyard or sitting by the fireplace listening to their stories, our grandparents became our confidants. We shared all our fears, dreams, and the challenges we faced at home. My grandmother would always assure us that we were not alone. When I was a teenager, I was labeled as a rebel child by my parents because I openly had different political beliefs from my family. When I tried to explain my points of view, my mom would usually cry and tell me that I was stressing her out. If I ever expressed sadness or anger in front of her, my mom would get angry and tell me that she couldn't stand to be around me when I was like that, and would then ignore me for the next few hours. As my sister got older, she began to become more of an individual, and also developed some mental health issues. For years, my mom refused to get her treatment because, according to her, she didn't really need it. Yet when my sister had panic attacks or anxiety, my mother would tell her that she was burdening her. There was this one night when things got really bad at home. Our parents were going on and on about how my sister and I were such a disappointment and that we should have never been born. It felt like we were drowning in their harsh words, and we couldn't take it anymore. Feeling lost and hurt, my sister and I decided to leave home. We packed our bags and headed straight to our grandparents' house. Our parents found out we were there and showed up demanding us to come back home. My grandmother scolded them for treating us this way, and my dad replied that he provided us with food and a roof to live in, so what more could we want from him? Hearing this, our grandpa, who is usually very calm and composed, got really angry and raised his voice for the first time. He yelled at my father that he should be ashamed for treating his own children this way, and threatened him that if he ever did anything to hurt us, he would call CPS on them. This really scared my parents, as my brother was still young, and they were scared to lose custody of him too. Grandpa continued to defend us by insisting that we deserved better parents than them. I clearly remember him telling my mother that she was his daughter, yet he had never treated her this way, so how could she ever be cruel to me and my sister? My mother's face went red in embarrassment. That fight at our grandparents' place became a turning point, as this was the first time someone stood up for us, and it made all the difference. After that night, things kind of changed at home. Our parents, especially Dad, got a bit scared after what Grandpa had threatened him with, so they toned it down a bit. Our brother continued to get extra love, but the constant yelling and punishment for us got a bit less. When I turned 18, I really wanted to go to college, but my parents were super against it, so we had this massive fight. My mom went on about how, as a girl, I should just focus on getting married and having kids. She said guys wouldn't be into a woman with too much education. My dad joined in, making fun of what I would even do with more education. It was a real mess to hear my own parents discourage me from being independent based on my gender. Despite their protests, I went to a 4-year university right away. I had a scholarship due to getting selected for their honors program. This meant that my parents didn't have to pay anything for me. My parents got really angry at me for defying them, but I didn't care. I started to work part-time during college and save money. During this time, living alone in college was a game changer, teaching me the ropes of adulting and giving me a taste of the real world. Balancing books, a part-time job, and my personal life wasn't always a walk in the park, but it sure made me stronger and more self-reliant. Throughout all this, my parents rarely called to check up on me. Eventually, I graduated and got myself a full-time job. I had saved up enough money from my part-time job so I could move into a flat with roommates. My conversations with my parents became less and less, almost to the point of non-existent. It wasn't just me pulling away. They seemed content with the distance too. The occasional birthdays and holidays went by without much more than a generic greeting. There were times when life hit me hard, job struggles, relationship woes, and my instinct was to reach out to family. But each time I hesitated because I knew they would not care. The idea of going back to that emotional roller coaster with my parents was daunting. Soon it became a conscious choice not to involve them in my life whatsoever. The only person in my family I remained in constant contact with was my sister. When it was her time to go to university, my parents threatened to kick her out if she pursued higher education under their roof. So I offered to take her in. I had to make sure she had the chance to follow her dreams without our parents holding her back. So my sister moved in with me and started attending a local community college. I worked tirelessly to provide for both of us. It wasn't always easy, but I was determined to support her education and help her achieve her goals. During this time, our bond grew stronger, and I found solace in knowing that despite the struggles with our parents, I could create a supportive and encouraging environment for my sister to thrive. When our brother grew up, he didn't face the same struggles as my sister and me. My parents were proud to send him to college. They had even saved up enough money to set up a college fund for him, ensuring he had the financial support needed to pursue higher education. Our brother clearly had opportunities and privileges that we never had, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions, happiness for him and a tinge of sadness for the stark contrast in how we were treated. Nonetheless, my sister and I continued to support each other, determined to overcome the challenges we had faced growing up. Throughout all the ups and downs, our grandparents remained a constant source of support for me and my sister. Over all these years, they stayed in touch with us, visiting us whenever they could. A few years ago, our beloved grandmother passed away, and my sister and I rushed home to be there for our grandfather. This reunion marked the first time I saw our parents after such a long time. They acknowledged my presence with a simple nod. Seeing their lack of warmth, I wanted to burst into tears, as I was already feeling vulnerable at that moment, but I didn't want my mother to scold me for making a scene. I remember after our grandmother's death, my sister and I spent more and more time with our grandfather. Despite our hectic schedules, we made a conscious effort to be there for him. We would visit him regularly, often sharing meals together, or simply sitting on the porch, engrossed in conversations that ranged from childhood tales to more recent happenings. On weekends, we dedicated entire afternoons to helping him with household chores or accompanying him to the local park. During one of our shared meals, my grandfather expressed his pride in me for taking care of my younger sister. His words caught me off guard, and I was genuinely surprised by his acknowledgement. He went on to say that having a granddaughter like me made him proud, and he believed I had the potential to change the world someday. Although I understood they were just words, an overwhelming wave of emotions hit me, and tears welled up in my eyes. It had been ages since someone had genuinely appreciated me. Grandpa, with a gentle pat on my head, assured me that my sister was fortunate to have an older sibling like me. The pride shining in his eyes is an image etched in my memory forever. Our brother, who has been the recipient of our parents' preferential treatment, has always maintained his distance, perhaps fearing that our parents would cut him off as they did to us. Over the last several years or so, my sister and I occasionally talk to him or catch wind from relatives or cousins about the numerous things that our parents have done for him while ignoring our existence, such as shelling out money for several used cars for my brother over the years. They paid for the deposit on a house so my brother could move out and live on his own. Last year, they paid for my brother to go to New York City with his girlfriend so he could relax, since according to our parents, he is working too hard. Recently, my sister, who had been dating her college sweetheart Robert, 29M, got engaged. The news filled me with immense joy, and I couldn't be happier for her. She and Robert make a wonderful couple, and the love they share is evident in every smile and glance they exchange. The proposal was nothing short of magical, and my sister was on cloud nine, showcasing the beautiful ring that adorned her finger to anyone who would spare a moment to share in her happiness. She had put up pictures of her proposal on social media, which is how my relatives found out and called to congratulate her. The news must have eventually traveled to our parents. Our phones started buzzing like crazy with calls and texts from our parents. It was honestly surprising because, up until now, they hadn't shown much interest in what was going on in our lives. It made us wonder why they were suddenly so eager to be part of our happiness when they had kept their distance for so long. The messages brought a mix of feelings: shock, confusion, and maybe a bit of annoyance. Why now? Why did they decide to jump in just when we were having a happy moment? Caught off guard by this unexpected flood of attention, my sister and I exchanged puzzled looks. When my sister finally answered our mom's call, Mom went on about how thrilled she was to hear about the engagement. My sister, being polite, said her thank you. Then came the tricky part. Mom started asking all sorts of questions. She wanted to know who this Robert guy was and if they could meet him. Now, knowing our parents and their track record, my sister tried to dance around it, citing her hectic work schedule and the chaos of wedding planning. But my dad, probably sitting right there with Mom, jumped in. He insisted that they deserved to meet the guy she was planning to spend her life with. Their convincing game was strong, and my sister eventually gave in. My sister didn't want to face our parents alone, so she told them that she would bring me along for the meetup, and surprisingly, our parents agreed. It was a little unexpected, but we decided to roll with it. The day of the meeting arrived, and we nervously arrived at our parents' place to meet them. The atmosphere was tense from the get-go. Our parents greeted us with forced smiles, trying to act like everything was normal. Mom smiled more warmly at Robert, though, and we all sat down to talk. It was awkward to see our parents after so long, especially how they were trying to act like one happy family in front of Robert. Although I'm sure Robert knew the full story, seeing that he dated my sister through college and has been with her for such a long time. The tension in the air was palpable, and Robert, sensing the unease, tried to keep the conversation light. He shared a bit about himself, his job, and his interests, hoping to ease the awkwardness. Our conversation then steered towards my sister and Robert's upcoming nuptials. Here's where things got more interesting. Our parents started to subtly hint about how wonderful it would be for Dad to walk my sister down the aisle, and Mom to be an integral part of her ceremony as well. My sister and I looked at them in confusion. Dad continued to say how he wanted us to showcase a united front in front of our relatives to avoid any family embarrassment. Mom nodded in agreement. She reiterated that they didn't want Robert's family to think that my sister didn't have any parents of her own, hence they wanted to be involved. Hearing their words, my sister and I looked at each other. It was clear now that they had called us here for their own agenda. They were afraid that my sister would not invite them to the wedding and didn't want their relatives to question them. It would harm their social status. I shook my head in disbelief, realizing their agenda. My sister gracefully thanked them for their suggestions, but calmly asserted that she had already made up her mind about who was going to walk her down the aisle. My dad asked curiously who else she could have chosen for such an important role in her wedding. With a confident smile, my sister dropped the bombshell. Grandpa will be walking me down the aisle. Our parents seemed taken aback, struggling to conceal their surprise. Their expressions quickly shifted from anticipation to anger. They couldn't fathom that their daughter had chosen our grandfather over them for such a significant role. This is how the conversation pretty much went after that. But sweetheart, it's tradition for a father to walk his daughter down the aisle. You can't break tradition. Sister, well, Mom, I don't care about breaking traditions. I want Grandpa to be a part of this special moment. He's been there for us when you both forgot that you had daughters. You can only attend as a guest at the wedding, like any other relative. Dad, you can't just sideline us like this. We're your parents. Hearing this, I couldn't handle my laugh any longer and started laughing loudly. Everyone was quite startled at my reaction. I looked my dad square in the eyes and told him that he and Mom had forgotten how to be parents for us, treating us like garbage all those years, so they had no right to demand my sister to listen to them. The truth hit hard, and our parents, angered and embarrassed, started to yell at me and my sister. They insisted that we were going to destroy their reputation, but we honestly didn't care. My sister stood her ground, telling them that they couldn't suddenly claim a parental role when they had neglected us for so long. I chimed in, expressing how their actions had consequences, and they couldn't rewrite the past. She clarified that our parents would have a limited role at the wedding, just like any other guest. They were welcome to attend, but their involvement would be minimal. The meeting ended on a sour and tense note, with my sister standing firm in her decision. As we left, I couldn't help but feel a mix of admiration for my sister's courage and disappointment in our parents' inability to understand the consequence of their past actions. Since the meeting, we have been hounded by our parents and other relatives that we are being selfish and cruel for not allowing our dad to walk my sister down the aisle. Aita for telling our parents the truth and supporting my sister's decision to let Grandpa walk her down the aisle. Update 1. It's been a few hours since I posted the story, and the support has been overwhelming. To everyone asking about our grandpa, my sister has informed him about the engagement and he has warmly congratulated her. He still doesn't know about my sister's idea to ask him to walk her down the aisle. We want to be there when we give him the news so we can see his face. We plan on going down to visit him this coming weekend. As for our parents, they have continued to send us several angry messages. Dad even found a way to reach out to Robert on Facebook, where he sent him a long message saying how he should knock some sense into my sister as the man in the relationship. He continued to write how my sister had no right to ask her grandpa, when traditionally it's the dad who fills this role. He then threatened Robert that if he allowed my sister to go through with this, then he and Mom wouldn't attend their wedding. Robert simply responded, "My fiancée is going to do whatever she wants, and I stand by her. It's your choice to attend our wedding or not." The clarity and strength of Robert's response likely sent shockwaves through our dad, who had probably expected a more submissive reaction. I can't help but picture the look on his face, and it makes me chuckle. I will update next when we go and meet our grandpa this weekend. Update 2. My sister and I drove down to our grandpa's place this weekend. We were bubbling with excitement to share the news with him. My sister finally told him that she had something important to tell him. He gazed at us, his eyes filled with curiosity and warmth. My sister took a deep breath and said, "I want you to walk me down the aisle on my big day. You're the one who has always been there for us, and I can't imagine anyone else doing it." Grandpa's eyes welled up with tears, and he pulled my sister into a tight hug. His voice choked with emotions as he said how honored he was that my sister had asked him. Looking at my grandpa getting teary-eyed, I teared up too, and we shared a group hug. Grandpa kept thanking my sister, saying how much it meant to him. We assured him that it was the least we could do to repay the love and support he had showered on us over the years. Then we explained how we had broken the news to our parents and the way they had reacted. We were worried that they might take their anger out on him, but Grandpa chuckled. He assured us that he could handle our mom, and that nothing was going to stop him from walking my sister down the aisle. My sister sighed in relief, and we spent the evening helping our grandpa out around the house. As my sister's wedding day approaches, we have been knee-deep in planning. From choosing the perfect theme that reflects her personality, to finalizing her wedding dress and meticulously arranging the seating for the guests. I can't wait to see my beautiful sister say I do to the love of her life very soon. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update. I am sorry for the late update, but I've been quite busy with my life. The wedding day arrived, and it turned out to be everything my sister had dreamt of, and more. The venue looked stunning, as we had anticipated. The guests filled the seats, and an air of joy and anticipation surrounded us. There was a noticeable absence in the ceremony, our parents. In the wake of our decision to limit their role at the wedding, they chose not to attend, a decision we respected. It was a bittersweet moment, realizing that they were missing such a significant event in my sister's life. The ceremony itself was magical. My sister, radiant in her wedding dress, stood with Grandpa by her side. The love and pride in his eyes were palpable as they walked down the aisle together. The decision to have Grandpa play this pivotal role had been the right one, and the joy it brought to my sister was evident. The atmosphere was filled with warmth, laughter, and the shared happiness of everyone present. My sister and Robert exchanged vows, promising a lifetime of love and companionship. The celebration continued into the night with dancing, laughter, and heartfelt toasts. Life has been going smoothly for us since the wedding. My sister and I have made the conscious decision to block our parents so they can't reach out to us anymore with their negativity and drama. We still continue to regularly visit our grandpa whenever we can. The journey hasn't been easy, but as we move forward, the focus remains on building a life filled with positivity and surrounded by those who genuinely care. Hopefully this is my last update.